It's happening. The palace halls are buzzing, the accountants are sharpening their pencils, and one woman has finally decided enough is enough. Princess Anne, the king's sister, the woman widely considered the hardest-working royal, has just signed an order that is sending shockwaves through the monarchy. She's demanding a full, immediate, and total audit of every single asset still owned by Prince Harry and Meghan Markle in the United Kingdom. And let me tell you, this isn't just a routine check of the silverware. This is a seismic shift in the royal strategy, a move that raises one gigantic question. What exactly are they looking for? And more importantly, what are they about to find? Because for years, ever since the Duke and Duchess of Sussex packed their bags for a new life in California, the status of their UK footprint has been this weird, ambiguous gray area. We've all heard the rumors, the Frogmore Cottage situation, the security concerns, the strained phone calls, but now the Princess Royal is taking the gloves off. According to multiple reports from insiders close to the royal household, Anne has invoked a little-known protocol to conduct a comprehensive review. The official line, as always, is about financial prudence and estate management. But come on, we all know that's just the polite royal way of saying someone is about to get a very uncomfortable wake-up call. Think about the timing here. This audit isn't happening in a vacuum. It's happening against the backdrop of a monarchy that is actively streamlining, trying to present a leaner, more efficient operation under King Charles III. And yet, here you have these lingering assets, these properties and trusts, still technically tied to two people who have, let's be honest, built a global brand around being former senior royals. It's a paradox, isn't it? They want the independence of a Hollywood life, but the financial and symbolic security of a British safety net. And now the one person in the family who has zero tolerance for drama is calling for a line-by-line inspection. Now, let's talk about the specific assets under the microscope, because this isn't just about a dusty old castle. The primary focus, sources claim, is Frogmore Cottage. This was their UK base, the home they renovated at the taxpayers' expense and then famously repaid after the public outcry. But here's the thing. The repayment was for the renovation costs, not the leasehold. The property itself is part of the Crown estate, and its occupancy is a privilege, not a right. With Harry and Meghan now officially out of the working royal loop, what is the justification for them retaining a foothold in one of the most prestigious estates in the country? It's a question that has been asked for years, and it seems Anne is the one brave enough to demand an answer in writing. But it goes deeper than just bricks and mortar. We're also talking about financial holdings, charitable trust connections, and even personal belongings held in storage at royal residences. It is alleged that the audit will seek to draw a hard line between what belongs to the institution of the monarchy and what is purely personal property of the Sussexes. This is where it gets legally fascinating and personally awkward. Imagine being the accountant who has to go through a lifetime of possessions, diplomatic gifts, and personal effects, trying to decide, okay, this tiara stays, this photo album goes. The level of detail involved is staggering, and you have to wonder if this is the final step in severing the administrative umbilical cord. And let's not ignore the elephant in the room, Princess Anne. Why her? Why now? This is the genius of the move. Anne is not Charles, who is emotionally entangled as a father. She's not William, who has a famously fractured relationship with his brother. Anne is the aunt. She's the one who shows up, does her job, and famously tells interviewers to naff off when they ask stupid questions. She has the credibility, the work ethic, and the lack of personal agenda to do this without it being painted as a petty family squabble. By putting her in charge, the palace is sending a message. This isn't personal, it's strictly business. But we all know that in a family like this, business is always personal. This move is a masterclass in royal optics. If the king or the Prince of Wales had ordered this, it would have been a media firestorm. The tabloids would have screamed brother versus brother or father cuts off son. But with Anne, it's seen as a sensible, no-nonsense administrative task. It frames the narrative away from emotion and toward governance. It's the difference between a family member yelling at you and the CFO of the family business sending a politely worded but very terrifying email about expense reports. And that right there is the brilliance. It lowers the temperature publicly while potentially raising it significantly behind closed doors. Of course, this immediately opens up a whole new can of worms. What happens when the audit is complete? What are the actual consequences? This isn't like a corporate job where you just turn in your laptop and badge. We are talking about a former working member of the royal family. According to legal experts, the findings could trigger a renegotiation of the Sandringham Summit, the very meeting that supposedly defined their post-exit life. If the audit finds assets being used that aren't in line with their current status, the Crown could demand their return, or worse, financial compensation. Imagine getting a bill from the Crown estate for years of back rent on a symbolic property. The sheer awkwardness of that invoice would be enough to make you choke on your morning tea. And this brings us to the inevitable question. How will Harry and Meghan react? Their entire post-royal strategy has been built on controlling their own narrative. They have the documentary, the book, the podcast, all platforms to tell their side of the story. But an audit is silent. An audit is a cold, hard paper trail. You can't spin a balance sheet. You can't do a primetime interview with Oprah about a ledger. It removes the emotional element and reduces everything to numbers and legal definitions. And for a couple whose power lies in storytelling, being reduced to a line item on a spreadsheet is probably the most profound disempowerment imaginable. It's a checkmate played with calculators instead of chess pieces. But let's inject a little bit of human sarcasm here because we have to. Can you imagine being the person who has to knock on the door of Harry and Meghan's legal team in California and hand them this audit request? Hi, yeah, so, Her Royal Highness, the Princess Anne, would like to know if you still have the keys to the gatehouse. And also, there's a question about some monogrammed towels that may have been taken in error. It's the most British power move in history. It's a velvet-gloved iron fist. They're not sending in the guards, they're sending in the accountants. And honestly, as a viewer of this global soap opera, it's absolutely fascinating to watch. It's the ultimate clash of worlds, the unshakable, quiet power of an ancient institution versus the loud, modern, media-savvy influence of a celebrity brand. Now, some royal commentators are suggesting this could be a preemptive strike. Think about it. With King Charles undergoing treatment for cancer, the stability of the monarchy is paramount. The last thing the institution needs is another tell-all book or another Netflix series dropping just as the line of succession is in a sensitive state. By launching this audit, Anne is essentially drawing a line in the sand. She's saying, if you want to be part of this family business, these are the terms. If not, here's the door. And by the way, please return the door key on your way out. It's the move designed to force a decision, to eliminate the ambiguity that has allowed the Sussexes to exist in this strange dual-citizen limbo. The timing also coincides with some interesting financial news from the Sussex camp. With their Spotify deal ending and questions about the long-term value of their Netflix partnership, the narrative of their financial independence has taken a few hits. Suddenly, that financially independent mantra doesn't resonate as quite loudly. And now, back in the UK, their assets are being scrutinized. It creates a picture of a couple being squeezed from all sides. The dream of California is one thing. The reality of managing a transatlantic financial and property portfolio is another. And when the family office in London starts asking pointed questions, the dream can quickly turn into a logistical nightmare. And this also puts other family members in a weird position. Where does this leave Princess Eugenie, who was reportedly close to Harry and lived at Frogmore Cottage for a time? What about the staff who were employed to manage these assets? The ripple effects of this audit are going to be felt far beyond just Harry and Meghan. It's a restructuring, and in any restructuring, there are casualties. We might see job losses, property repossessions, in the royal sense, and a complete severance of any remaining ties. It's the administrative equivalent of a breakup, where you're not just dividing the friends, you're dividing the frequent flyer miles and the timeshare. And from a purely legal standpoint, this is a constitutional nightmare wrapped in a property dispute. Who actually owns the gifts given to a working royal? Are they personal property or property of the state? If Meghan wore a couture gown to an official engagement, does the dress belong to her or to the crown's image? These are the mind-boggling questions that auditors are now reportedly tasked with answering. It's like dividing an estate where the deceased was a hoarder of historic artifacts. Everything has sentimental, financial, and national value at once. You can't just put a price on it and split it down the middle. It's a diplomatic, historical, and familial minefield. But here's my personal take on this. As much as this looks like a punitive move, I actually think it's the healthiest thing that could happen for everyone involved. For too long, there has been this undefined shadow hanging over the monarchy. By conducting this audit, Anne is forcing clarity. If Harry and Meghan want to keep certain assets, there will be a clear financial and legal framework for that. If the crown wants them back, the terms will be clear. It ends the guesswork. It stops the passive-aggressive leaks to the press. It puts everything on the table. And while that might be incredibly uncomfortable in the short term, it paves the way for a much cleaner, more defined relationship in the future. It's the financial therapy this family never knew it needed. Yet, you have to wonder about the emotional toll. For Harry, these assets aren't just things. They are the last physical connections to his birthright, to his mother's legacy, to the only home he really knew. To have an aunt, his father's sister, systematically cataloging and potentially removing those connections must feel incredibly cold and impersonal. It's one thing to feel estranged from your family, it's another to receive a formal document listing everything you are no longer entitled to. The psychological impact of that piece of paper cannot be overstated. It's a formal, written acknowledgement that the door is not just closed, but locked, bolted, and now inventoried. And what about the public reaction? This is going to split opinion right down the middle. Half the country will applaud Anne for being decisive and protecting the institution. They'll see it as accountability finally coming for a couple they feel has disrespected the crown. The other half